Trippie Redd has just released his new album, Trip at Night, and it's coming in a time where the summer's kind of heating up right now, and this was an interesting drop from the get-go because it had me intrigued because he actually has great projects to him, and Trippie Redd is a super talented artist. So guys, we're going to be giving our full review and reaction of Trip at Night, and this is cool because it's not our first album review on the channel, so we're also keeping you guys updated with everything industry-wise, so album drops, announcements, so we've been covering Donda and everything. So going to Trip at Night, what were your expectations going into this next album?
I had pretty high expectations because this is a sequel to Life's a Trip from 2018, which was a great album, probably my favorite Trippie album yet. And he also did Neon Shark versus Pegasus with Travis Barker, which was super unique. But by the way, guys, if you're new here, the way that we actually review albums is we have our own criteria that we dive into. So we have artist performance, then we usually have content, but for trap albums, we don't include that one. So then we follow up with production, then features, and then instant replay value before giving our overall rating. And our ratings are actually not done with any numerical values, but instead we actually use words to categorize them. So we start off with bad, then we move on to mid, then good, amazing, and finally perfect. So what were you thinking you were going to give this album before even hearing it? Like, did you have any expectations of how good it was going to be?
I didn't. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest Trippie Redd fan where I've dived into so much of his, like, let's say, snippets before this, and I haven't done my due diligence on that side, and I prefer not to so I can have an element of surprise. But I was actually expecting something nice after Life's a Trip because I actually got into that album later on through the Twitter community, and I actually found that I had standouts that stuck through my rotation as time went on. So I was expecting to get a good listen out of this. How about you, though? Did you have any sort of premeditated sort of narratives?
I mean, after hearing Mr. Rage with Playboi Carti, I was super hyped because that was like probably a top 30 single of the year for me, and it was probably it was a famous leak that the fans loved, and I loved the chemistry between Carti and Trippie. So that as being your lead single, I had super high expectations, but let's move on now to the artist performance. So how did you feel Trippie delivered on this front?
Well, there's one thing that I did take out of this is that Trippie is good when he gets into a zone where his energy is being portrayed, when he's, giving these really energetic, let's say, one-liners, and then, he's following up with, some vocals, and he's using his singing on the hooks. I feel as if that's where Trippie does best. But on this album, I feel as if it wasn't lacking, but at certain times it felt unconcentrated. Example, on Molly Hearts, I feel as if his flow was a bit off, where I wasn't gravitating to it as much as past Trippie flows that I had heard. Not only that, but let's say I go to MP5, the song's nice, it's melodic, but it's not that it's melodic, it's just, I don't know how to say it. You know what I'm trying to say? I couldn't tell if he was trying to, burst out that energy and try to scream, or if he was trying to be melodic or certain times, and then, I don't know, it just got confusing to me.
So it's kind of a confusing energy.
It just wasn't consistent throughout the whole track list, and I think that maybe that's just a gripe that I have with it. But how about you? Do you think the concentration throughout the track list met other Trippie albums?
I mean, look, for me, I think that Trippie Redd is one of the most vocally diverse trap artists that we have, and he can actually rap. If you look at a song like "Can You Rap Like Me" off of "A Love Letter to You," he's shown that he can rap on these boom bap beats and actually fucking kill it. But we didn't really get that side of Trippie here, and I feel like the problem is with the artist performance is that he didn't go too diverse. I mean, obviously he has his kind of signature delivery where he's kind of whiny and kind of almost screaming on certain tracks, but we didn't even get much singing from him here, and he's actually a great singer. So I was disappointed on that front, and I felt like the delivery was a bit hazy and kind of laid back, and he didn't put maybe all of his effort into it. Apart from that, I mean, he has a lot of personality. That's something that I do respect, is that you kind of hear his laughing before a song starts, and other cool vocal aspects. But overall, I mean, I feel like I got recycled flows, kind of repetitive subject matter from him too, and the vocal diversity besides a few songs weren't really there, and you didn't really get too much, let's say, clear pronunciation from him until you reach a song like "Rich Motherfuckers" towards the end of the track list. So to me, it was a mid-artist performance.
It wasn't that it was bad in the way that it was unlistenable. It was just Trippie could do much more in these types of situations, and I think the one standout that I did get out of the artist performance was energy at certain points, and the way that he was able to express himself, and the way that he was able to come in and like deliver that charismatic personality that he does on often tracks, but just no innovation throughout it. And I don't know, I felt as if I was a bit disappointed going throughout it. So yes, it is a mid rating, but let's actually move on to the producing. And the first thing I have to say is that I feel as if Playboi Carti would be able to go on all of these productions. Like, that's one thing, is like, I went throughout it and like I heard a lot of different like drum patterns that sound similar to, you know, Pierre Bourne beats, and at sometimes like, you know, super high bass boosted like 808s that like sounded like they were clipping. So it was very aggressive in the way that it was produced, but the soundscape felt as if sometimes you were within like this this fucking trip that he's trying to like create for you. So
Yeah.
I like the direction. I feel as if there was too many producers that were working on this album to be able to make that a coherent sort of soundscape throughout the album. Because if you go through all of the production credits, everyone's super different, and I understand that
There are a couple of main producers. You have Nadot, you have Kashmir, you have Loso.
but besides that, you don't really have much other, like lock-ins in there. And like, that's one thing that I at least wanted to see, was maybe trying out different types of productions and seeing how there was going to be that dynamic flow to the track list. So how about you? How did you feel about it?
I felt like, he kind of sets up this futuristic, spacey aesthetic throughout, and you have a lot of distorted drums. You have these electric synths, and it kind of feels like you're going through one big arcade game. But I think where it goes wrong is that the main focus of the production are these rage type beats where you kind of have these EDM influences, and to me it got stagnant. To me, I felt like I was listening to the same beat from track 1 to track 18. You know what I'm trying to say? I felt like there wasn't too much diversity in the production until you reach a song, for example, like Supernatural, where you actually have a beat switch, and then you get this electric guitar, you get some distorted 808s, and that allowed Trippie to have this kind of carefree delivery where you kind of got those emo punk kind of vibes from him, and that was cool to see. And you got this aggressive energy from him, which you didn't really get on the rest of the track list. So Supernatural is a standout for me. Apart from that, I mean, Rich Motherfuckers was a bit different than the rest because it was hit to make a beat. You had these really cool bells. You had a nice hard hitting piano melody, and then a lot of snare drums and hi-hats. So that one was different. But overall, I just felt like it was the same beat for the entire project. So
I know it could get a bit stagnant, but one beat I do want to talk about is actually Captain Crunch, and I had mentioned to you that it sounds different than anything else had been, that was on the album, and I think that's why I liked it. As far as technical components go, like, it's not really anything that crazy. There's not anything too complex to it, but it was a nice like shift in tempo throughout the track list, and I'm sad that I only got it, towards the end. The only thing is like I feel as if the features didn't necessarily belong on that one song, and I would have liked to just see Trippie, go ahead with that beat. But at the end of the day, I think that Lou and I are going to give this a mid rating again for the producing, because it wasn't that it was unlistenable or that it was something that's not playable. It's just there's no like real guidance with the production throughout the whole track list, and it just feels stagnant throughout it. Like it doesn't get you excited as Trippie albums are supposed to be. So
and this coming off of like the rock influenced beats that Travis Barker brought on Neon Shark versus Pegasus,
but
those were fucking fire.
That was amazing production. Like you had fantastic Travis Barker drums. Like just that alone is super legendary. And Travis Barker has worked with the likes of fucking Machine Gun Kelly and like Lil Wayne, so it was cool to see him get into that that hip hop influence and work with Trippie. It's just here I feel as if as soon as you get Trippie out of that element of working with one sound, like it gets a bit stagnant.
It does,
I don't know, like it just doesn't follow anything. But let's actually move on to the features. We
had 12 features on this album.
This was feature heavy.
Yeah, and people were kind of hyped up because they were saying how he kind of got the infinity stones of SoundCloud rappers, because you have the likes of Lil Uzi Vert, you have the likes of Playboi Carti, you have Juice WRLD, you have X, and many more. But to be honest with you, there were only really like 2 features that I truly enjoyed, and those were Ski Mask the Slum God and Playboi Carti.
Yeah, those were the only 2.
Yeah, and I felt like, for example, Sofego on MP5 kind of has this quick fire flow on there that is maybe a bit too similar to Playboi Carti, and kind of just didn't stand on his own, and it just didn't add anything to the track, so that was kind of forgettable for me. And by the way, guys, we did not hear the song Betrayal featuring Drake because at the time that this came out for us at midnight Eastern time, it wasn't available. So we wanted to give you guys this review as soon as possible. So we kind of just decided not to include it. But hopefully the Drake feature's fire.
Yeah, I hope the Drake feature comes out and is great. But let's actually move on to Matt Hardy 999 and Danny Phantom. So those are two posthumous features that Trippie Out came out and said in the description to this album that he wanted to try and provide this for the OG fans because the fans wanted this and they wanted to see these two features happen. So I don't think we're gonna really judge them because they're posthumous features. Like, it's nice to have on the track list, but as a whole,
was cool. It was cool to see the back and forth between Juice WRLD and Trippie Redd. Though.
It was nice, but like it's just like where like it's posthumous verses. So at the end of the day, like maybe we don't know what could have been if like that collaboration like would have really went down.
Sure,
so unless it did, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But let's move on.
Well, actually, the X song was actually an old verse that they took from his song on Ghostbusters and they added it in now. So I think that was kind of a collaborative process while he was still here, but. Yeah, nonetheless, though, I mean...
I'm going to read you the official quote just so like you guys don't have to go do any digging. The two songs with Juice and Jazzy, they're actually songs that I was planning on putting out, but they got leaked, and now on the album, they're revamped. I did new beats and put more vocals behind certain shit and just made it sound a little better. So
interesting.
It's interesting to see that he was able to pull out some verses and create some material for the album, but I want to talk about Ski Mask, because Ski Mask actually had a great fucking verse on here.
Best feature on the album.
And I really did enjoy it. So... how do you feel about Ski Mask and him returning this year, especially being a bit inactive for the past couple of years?
It was cool to see them kind of alter the beat on the song that he was on, which I think is called Demon Time, and it's cool just because they alter the beat in the sense that the instrumental goes mute and Ski Mask can go a cappella like he's done in the past, and you really kind of get the nuances of his flow when there's no instrumental behind them, and his wordplay is always very quirky, and he's just one of the most playful artists around right now, and it was just super refreshing to the track list.
It was super refreshing to the track list, and it adds to that whole sort of aesthetic of him having all of these SoundCloud rappers and these legendary SoundCloud rappers on the same track list. The only thing is like, it just feels as if like it doesn't necessarily do anything for the track list, like on that level. Like good track lists that we've gone through with good features. We've given good features to Brockhampton's Roadrunner, I believe. We've also given good features to I think it's J. Cole's The Off Season. I think that was another criteria that we're given.
I think we gave amazing to those features.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so. Yeah.
I'd have to go back and check those reviews out. But regardless, like, how do you feel overall about it? And do you feel as if maybe this could go for good, or is it more of like a mid sort of feeling?
Yeah, it's kind of in the mix of mid and good, but overall, I think we're going to go with the mid rating just because besides a few standouts like Ski Mask and Playboi Carti, the rest of the features kind of just were just forgettable to me and didn't really add much. The posthumous features were actually pretty good, though. I did enjoy those. Apart from that, though, I feel like So Fago wasn't that memorable. Also didn't really like Uzi's feature on Holy Smokes. I felt like that was kind of lazy, and yeah, that's how I feel about them.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like, whatever, you could put it in the good category because there was actual good features on this.
There was a few,
and we named them. But let's actually move on to the instant replay. So, Lou, I gotta ask you, how's this thing, sticking through your rotation throughout the rest of the year?
Not very well, to be honest with you, man. And it's just because I feel like the production has this one singular feeling to it, and it gets stagnant to a point where you're hearing the same beat for practically almost 18 songs. And not only that, but I feel like Trippie has tackled these styles and cadences in better ways in the past. So to me, he didn't really do much to innovate, and we didn't get the real rapping from Trippie like you would have gotten on songs like Oom's Revenge, where he's spitting over this awesome sample. So I felt like I was missing that kind of lyrical Trippie. Not only that, but I didn't really get too much on the end of him playing with his vocal complexions too much, and I kind of wanted that going into it because I know how skilled he is vocally.
I know, and that's what's a big, I would say, concern of mine is like I wanted to see that room for him to flourish. I feel as if a lot of stuff just didn't sound like he really made those songs with the best capability that he can, because we know the type of material that Trippie Redd could put out there, and I just don't feel as if it's lived up to that.
Let me ask you, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, but especially like this being a sequel, to such a great album, like I was expecting to get not similar material, but at least the same caliber of material.
Yeah.
And I feel as if I didn't get that. As far as the production goes, I mean, it's not stuff that's unlistenable, but just for the most part, I mean, you'll find, trap albums have this, well, I don't know if you can consider this a trap album or whatever, subgenre you really want to stick it to. I find oftentimes now the production's always lacking because too many producers, too many creators on a project, and there's not a coherent sound to it as if, past albums had. And as far as the features go, yes, there were standouts on this, but for the most part, like, it didn't make any songs on this project any better.
I do think though that diehard Trippie fans will enjoy the album because there are there are certain standouts on there. But I want to ask you this: what would you say are your top 3 songs on the album and top 3 worst songs?
Okay, let me go through this. I'll pull out my stuff here. And this is interesting, guys. Leave this stuff in the comments. Like, I want to see what you guys end up saying.
Your top 3 best and worst. Let us know.
Okay, so I would probably do Time. I would probably do Rich Motherfucker, and then I would probably do Captain Crunch. I'll just put Captain Crunch for my favorite on there. The worst song I think is Molly Hearts. Like, that was annoying for me. I feel as if
Vibes wasn't good.
Vibes wasn't too great. I'd probably put that in there, and then maybe Supercell. But actually, you know what? I'll put Mr. Rage in my top 3. My bad.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Rage is probably my third favorite.
I would probably go number 1, Rich MF. Number 2, I would go Supernatural because I love that beat switch and I loved the more aggressive and kind of rock delivery that Trippie gave. And then number 3, I liked MP5, but I'll give it to Mr. Rage.
Okay.
And my top 3 worst would have to be Vibes at number 1, and number 2, give me Holy Smokes, and number 3, I'll take probably iPhone.
Those are great picks. So listen, guys. Overall, I think you guys have already seen the scores that we've given all of our criteria.
We're going to give it a mid rating.
Yeah, we're going to have to give it a mid rating. It's just, it's our personal opinions. For the Trippie Redd fans are going to be eating tonight, and they're gonna have a fun time with this album.
There's some enjoyable songs, for sure.
But for us, it's not our thing. And listen, we hope to be reviewing more Trippie albums because there's some really great material of his out there. And if you guys have enjoyed this review, please subscribe because we're doing this on every big release of the year, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. And listen, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you for watching the video. It's always a pleasure doing content for you guys. Listen, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel because we're doing album reviews, and we actually have our series called Everything We Know, where we take you guys through the whole album rollout of the hottest releases of the year. Not only that, guys, but our Patreon plan is now live. You guys can access that in the bio. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.